did with the new relationship. We were moving on to like the next steps of relationship. Things were getting more serious. We're talking about maybe a future together. I ended up moving into a rental house about 45 minutes from my dad's farm. And the plan was that she was going to end up moving in to that house with me as well, with her 2 kids. But we didn't want to just jump right into, us all moving in together. But I went ahead and got the rental house. She stayed at her parents' with the kids, and over time we kept doing things with all of us together, where I would interact with the kids and just play dates and going to the park and fun things like that. Making sure that everything was going to be okay with her kids and stuff. We didn't want to force anything on them too soon. We weren't in any type of hurry, both coming out of long-term marriages with kids involved. So we wanted to be smart about it. I just overcome a huge battle with opiates, and we both did smoke weed. So that was, really our only vice. But over time, I had come to find out that it was just kind of weird, because sometimes she would have like these bad stomach problems. Like her stomach would be so upset, and then she'd be in the bathroom. And over time, I come to find out like that one of her friends knew one of my old friends who was a drug dealer. And at this time, this is when Opanas started hitting the scene. And it came out in conversation that her friend had a little bit of a it was never put that she had a problem, but that she dabbled around and snorted a little bit of Opana every once in a while. Then we really never really hung out with her much for the next few months. Like it was just somebody that we met through that hung out at one of her friends' place, that we went over and we watched basketball games. We'd all smoke weed. Kind of a party environment, when we would go to those people's house like maybe once a month or something. At the most, it was like once every 2 weeks for like a ball game on a weekend. We'd smoke. That girl would come. She was an acquaintance of everyone. And it was just talked about that was something that she was into. I don't know how it came about, but one day, my girlfriend was just like, my stomach hurts so bad. Like, I just need something. I need something to help. Like, I can't deal with it. And she was like, so-and-so had said I could come pick up like a half a pain pill. And she was like, I just need something. Like, I can't deal with it. And my thinking, trying to make sense of it all, trying to be logical, was like, okay, like, you don't have a drug problem. You've never had a drug problem. You're dealing with some serious pain and discomfort. Sure, like, yeah, go ahead and take it. It should help you, and hopefully you'll be okay, and that'll be the end of it. Well, then that started turning into a thing. And of course, we're having these conversations where, like, this isn't something that I have to have. It's just something that, when the pain gets bad with my stomach, that I just need something. And it's just, it's not something I do every day. Definitely not a problem. So a couple months went by with that, all that going on and being understood. And it seemed innocent enough. she ended up not wanting to uh, really spend much time out at my rental house because it was about an hour away from her dad's. And she wanted to get a place closer to the city. So that started causing some problems, a little bit of a strain in our relationship because I didn't want to go anywhere near the city. So we actually broke up for a few weeks. During that time, she was hanging out with more of her friends, and I pretty much just kept to myself. I didn't really know anybody where I was at. So I just really kept to myself and was trying to continue on my path. At that point, I wasn't working. I was getting unemployment. I was wanting to try to stop smoking weed, get completely clean, get to a point where I could pass a drug test. I felt pretty good with the way things were going in my life, but I was very upset over my girlfriend. I really, really had a strong connection with her. But she ended up getting an apartment in the city, and then she asked me to help her move, and I ended up helping her move into it, and then ended up staying the night with her. And then it kind of got to a point where like we were just casually dating again. I would stay at her place a day or two. She'd come out and stay at my place. We started getting really close again, and I started getting to the point where I was um, trying to find a job a whole lot harder. We were talking about moving forward in our relationship and getting a place together somewhere in the middle. At this point, she made it known to me that her dad had been taking like Xanaxes to deal with some anxiety, and that she actually gets prescribed them as well. And this whole time, like, I had no idea she even took those. And I didn't have a whole lot of experience with Xanaxes except just here and there, one like blue football here and there, nothing major. That got to a point where every once in a while I would get one from her, and then eventually that led into me taking them a little more often than I should have. And my love for her, I was head over heels for her at the time. I felt like I was truly in love. She was filling that empty void that I had in my life. So it kind of made me look past some things. And like in my mind, the way I made sense of it all was that, well, it's not an opiate. So I don't think I'll have a problem. So anyway, going fast forward in a few months, now it's getting to a point where I'm taking Xanaxes every day. And my addictive personality is taking over. And now I'm going to a doctor getting prescribed Xanaxes. And then decided to her it as things kept unfolding, I kept finding out more and more that her dad also had a pain pill problem. So it's like, wow. So here we are about a year into our relationship. We discussed at the very beginning that I could have nothing to do with this type of lifestyle. Now it's coming out that your dad has a pain pill problem, and you're asking me if I know anywhere we can get any for him. And then I actually came across a bottle in her purse one day. I was looking, I think, for her phone, and it was a bottle with some Xanaxes and about 8 pain pills in it. And I confronted her about it, and she's like, I have those. You know about my stomach issues. Sometimes I need those. And it's like, okay, I guess I can see that. It's fine. You don't seem like you have any kind of problem. Um, well, that led into just moving on down the road. And then her one girlfriend that I mentioned previously, that I came to find out like she was snorting Opana, she came over one night. And my girlfriend had told me that when we were separated, that she hung out with her one night and they snorted a little bitty line of this Opana. And she was like, let's invite her over, and we don't have any kids, and we'll do a little bit. She was like, I think you'll really like it. Like, it ain't something that we're going to do all the time or nothing like that. It's just, we don't have any kids. Let's just have some fun. And I had no idea what an Opana was. I should have said no, but I didn't. And we did it. And it was just an extreme high. And that turned into doing that, every other week or something. We would do a little bit of that with her. That turned into learning that her dad was doing those, and her dad had a really bad addiction to opiates and Xanaxes, as well as her sister. So this all started coming out. At this point, I wasn't sure about myself if this was something that I could be around and be okay with without coming into this real bad addiction again. And I knew that that wasn't the life that I wanted, but I was stuck in a really hard place because I really loved her. And I had this vision of what our relationship was going to be starting from the beginning. But now all these things are coming to light, and now here I am going along with it. And I find myself, involved with doing opiates again and doing Xanaxes and smoking weed. So I'm really kind of struggling at this point with this relationship. But at this point, I was in love with her. So this was really hard. So I was staying at her apartment, and her kids were with their dad. And she had told me that, her stomach's hurting really bad. She needed to go and try to get a few pain pills from one of her friends. And I was like, fine, whatever. And we had went somewhere in my car. At that time, I was the only one that had a car. And it was just an old Toyota that I paid cash for. But it ran really well. It was a good little car. She dropped me off at the apartment, and I went upstairs and just laid down and actually fell asleep. And I woke up to my phone ringing, and I didn't recognize the number, but they left a message. So I listened to the message, and it was some sheriff telling me that I needed to call him back, that there had been an accident. Need to call him back as soon as possible. My car was involved in an accident. Well, my heart dropped, so I call him back, and she had went off. She was going down a 2-lane highway. The speed limit was like 55. 2-lane highway. And her tires went off the shoulder, and she tried to get back on the road and overcorrected and lost control, and my car started flipping. She was not buckled up, and she was ejected out of the car, and the car was flipping and landed on top of her. She had extreme blow to the head, broken ribs, broken shoulder. Ended up having a medevac flight come. They worked on her for a little while. This was all that he knew at this point. He said she did have a pulse and everything when she got into the helicopter when they left, but that's all that he knew. At this point, like, this was just such, it was so unexpected and just such a shock. So my friend came and picked me up. We're like driving like a bat out of hell to the hospital. And we get downtown to the hospital, the university, and I go in and I can just tell on the faces of everybody that was already there, her parents, that this was not good. And um, one of the nurses walked me to the room where she was, and they slid the curtain open, and she was gone. Um, she had a big gash on her head that they had to cut open a little more to try to relieve pressure. Her brain had swelled real bad, and she was gone.